Hello, good evening and welcome to the Editors Forum. My name is Raymond Alqua, and today the Editors Forum will talk about jobs predominating our political news in the week under review. First, it was the quest to fight and maintain their jobs after a new security coordinator came in. This has transmogrified into some other problems that the Delta Force 8 got released. The Delta Force 13 is still under the control of the police, but people are not excited by this decision. Today we ask in a non-partisan way, whether this particular decision by a state attorney was politically correct and also legally correct, and whether it has ramifications for the government in power. Later on, they were supposed to be guaranteed jobs, but they lost theirs. Over 100 have been sacked from the Driver Vehicle Licensing Authority. Were these dismissals legitimate? Were they by the right people? Was it an act that is one of those that's supposed to be done to make sure we purge the public service or people who don't deserve to be there? Or it's a heavy hand and political influence that is sacking people perceived not to belong to the current and the party in power? In another fight, maybe the underlying fight is the jobs that the ECG workers want. But why should anybody be worried about not getting electricity bill? Well, the U.S. Embassy is. They allege that for 2 good years, they've not received any. The ACG has contestations. We'll be coming to the head and tail of whether or not all of this boils down to what we want to do with the Electricity Company of Ghana. And we'll also be bringing you the job to replace or maybe get the NDC to lead the country sometime in the future. Who really is taking the box for Dr. Ekos-Pilgabra? We'll hear one analysis from a lecturer at the School of Communication Center at the University of Ghana, whether or not Ekos-Pilgabra has his Achilles heel even before he throws his, what they call it, hat in the race. This is Editors Forum. After this short break, we'll be back for an interaction that's supposed to get you thinking deeper and harder about what happened in the course of the week. So you're welcome back. This is the Editors Forum here. My name is Raymond Alqua, and I'm joined today by 2 editors. One with us here at the Multimedia Group, very powerful one, deputy head of the political desk, and the editor at my jawline. I'm told that when you're Malik, it should be Abdul Malik Abbas.
My name is just Malik.
Okay, Malik Abbas. Dabu is actually editor at my jawline. He's not Malik. He's Kobe Fiagbe. He's the editor of the Ghanaian Lens. And that conversation will be starting with these gentlemen pretty soon. But first and foremost, they were supposed to be officers who helped a political party get into power. You know them. They have names across the country, sometimes very frightening. Some are invisible forces, but this is the Delta Force. You know what happened when they got 13 of them being arrested and prosecuted for routing and similar engagements when they attacked the office and the person of the Asante Regional Security Coordinator. Well, they were released or helped to gain their freedom from the circuit court in Kumasi, which became a big-time issue because this was a threat to the court and also the judge who was sitting at that time. The police rounded up 8 of them, or allegedly 8 of them, because 2 of them are saying that they have nothing to do with the claim that's being made against them. Police rounded up these people and ended up that the court or the state attorney who was in charge of the case believes these people are not people you can prosecute because the evidence is weak, non-existent, and to all intents and purposes, too little for any successful prosecution. This got the country very much worried. Some suspected political interference. Others said it was rule of law at stake. You've heard the thoughts of Martin Amidu, who was saying that it was an excellent work by the state attorney. You've also heard from others, including senior lawyers in this country, who are happily saying this issue ought to be dealt with the way it ought to be dealt with without political influence. But government is not letting anything down. First, it denied any involvement in the decision from the Attorney General's office. If you saw the Information Minister's statement, it was very clear that government had no role in the freeing of these people. But is that really necessary? Today, we'll ask, what is the main problem with our justice system? And could the police have done a better job? Are we really letting go the people who raided our courts and brought justice into disrepute? Well, let me start with you, Malik. Also because, I mean, you study law and you probably understand the legal process. Of course, I mean, understand the legal process far better than me and Kobe. Kobe, you did law some time back?
No, I'm just...
But you were a police officer too, so I want that on record.
Yeah.
So that when I come to talk about how the police handle this matter, I'll deal with it in an effective way.
The only law I studied was to the extent of learning to become a detective.
So, Mr. Fiagbe is one of my guests here in the studio. Kobe with the Ghanaian lens, by a former police officer. Were you a detective?
Yep, I was.
Wonderful. Let me start from that point.
I thought you were starting with Malik.
Yes, but Malik is with me here. Yes, Malik is with me here, but I want to do a detective discussion.
It's only a fool doesn't change his mind.
Oh.
Did he say his wife or his mind?
Anyway, my point is, see, when you have all men, guess you sometimes have to have a discussion that goes beyond. Kobe.
Yeah, bro.
You have done the work of policeman before, a detective, and done investigations. There are people questioning why the police did this sort of, quote, shoddy work, which got the Delta Force 8 being given their freedom, at least in the interim, since we are told that the evidence available and against them is not enough. If you were to be the policeman handling this particular case, put on your professional cap then and tell me how you'd have handled it.
Thank you and good evening to our listeners. First of all, I have had no doubt that this was going to end up in the way it ended up, except that I wasn't prepared for the method.
Sorry, forgive me, but I mean, is this the police professional speaking?
Yeah, the police professional speaking.
Oh, okay.
Now, you have to understand something. Everything happening is happening within a political context.
Okay.
Now, the political context is such that you have leading members of the MPP who have come to make pronouncements that, look, this thing should not go anywhere. Even if the boys were arraigned before court, there were going to be repercussions.
And by leading members, you mean specifically?
Kennedy Japan and a few others.
A member of parliament.
Yes. You understand.
And the few others include?
Oh, you know them. We've heard all of them. You understand.
Would the Ashanti Regional MPP chairman be an example?
Of course, he is. But let's just say that that is what has happened, and everybody is aware of that. So obviously, you know what is likely to happen. That, look, at best they will go off with a slap at the back of the hand. Go, don't do it again. That kind of thing. At worst, they were going to walk free, and so these are the words that has happened. Now, the police said, from the facts adduced in the the principal state attorney's letter to the court, it says that the police said after the incident they went to Asafo interchange and arrested a number of people. The number of people that they arrested were 8. 6 of them just happened to be members of the
Delta Force. Who deny entering the court even if we're there that day.
So on what basis were they arrested? I mean, from everything that is being told us, it looks like the police just went on an arrest spree and happened to have just chanced on 6 people who are out of the 8 who happen to be members of the Delta Force. Is that is what the evidence is showing to us per everything that we are being told?
I'll ask you a question since you dovetailed into this part.
I need to establish what has happened, then I will tell you what I would have done.
Brilliant.
Now, so what the police are telling us from the facts as read to or as given to us by the principal state attorney is that the police said that after the incident, they went to Asafo interchange and arrested 8 people. Now, to the extent that the police cannot or have not been able to give, I haven't seen the duplicate document, but I'm basing my submission on the write-up provided by the principal state attorney, and which says that there is no other evidence beyond the fact that they were arrested and that they had denied even being in the court, one or at least admitted being on the premises but not in the courtroom. The rest denied even being in the premises at all. So on what basis were they arrested? Now, you see clearly that there was not even what's the name, identification parade for the people who were in the court to come and identify, oh, we saw this man in the court, we didn't see this man in the court, we saw this man in the court, we didn't see this man in the court. There was no such thing.
That was said by the state attorney in the
precisely.
letter.
So on what basis were they arrested? The police will need to give us, because they couldn't, they wouldn't be able to tell us that we just went on a random arrest spree and then 6 of them just happen to be members of the Delta Force. Are you following what I'm saying?
That's your point.
So clearly there is a reason for the arrest in the first place. What has stopped the police from moving from the initial reason and then linking the people to the crime that they were investigating? What? Is it a political instruction from somewhere? Is it inertia? I can't say it's ineptitude, because I have been a policeman and I know how diligently the police, when they are deciding to work. So it's not ineptitude. What is it that made them to go beyond the initial reason for arresting? Because they couldn't have just been going around as for interchange and picking just anybody, and then 6 of them just happened to be members of the Delta Force. So obviously there was an intel. Obviously there was a basis for that arrest. So what was the basis in the first place? That we need to know. Now, if I was investigating this case, what I would have done was to speak to the people in the court, because that was not the only case in court that day, unless the police are telling me that that's the only case in court that day, and that these were the only suspects but clearly the only people, per the report we have seen from the AG's office, the only people the police spoke to were the 2 CWOs and the investigator, who was himself even not who is described as the complainant, but who was himself not even at the scene of the incident on that day. You understand? So clearly you see that from the beginning there is a grand design to just let this go. Look, we haven't been able to establish anything. My problem with the AG's outfit is this.
And Kobe, see, I wanted to be clear, and that's why I wanted professional advice from you, even though you're no longer in the service. I asked specifically what would have been the procedure that followed.
That's what I'm telling you. That I would have spoken to the people in the court that day.
Okay.
There were
like people. Are you talking about the judge?
I'm talking about the judge. I'm talking about lawyers in court on that day. I'm talking about even accused persons who have been brought to court for other offenses related, who were in the courtroom that day. I would have spoken to many witnesses who would have been ready for their cases, because there was not just, it's not just that case on that day that would have been in court. No, it's very rare to see a situation where a court has a single case day in this present day.
Okay,
you understand?
But assuming it was, we understand that the police investigation team, they speak to the other police officers who are trained officers.
There are 2 police people.
Also
one of them said, I was concentrating on protecting the judge, and therefore I did not pay much attention to the people who had invaded the court. Yeah. Okay, it's plausible, very plausible. I'm not saying that is what happened, but I'm saying it's plausible. The other one also gave an excuse as to why he or she, I don't know whether he's the one with the she or the pregnant woman or the other one, you understand, said that he also gave an excuse why she could not, or he or she could not identify the other the suspect. But I'm saying that it goes beyond the 2 of them that day. There are court interpreters, there are court officials, there are registrars of the court and all that, and even there are people who sell around the court premises.
And you want to believe that these people could have been consulted and spoken to in the course of the time.
That is what an investigator does. And that is where my problem with the with the AG's department comes from. I have done cases.
When you say AG's department, are you talking about the one in the Ashanti region that gave
the AG's department is universal. The AG's department.
But no, there's a Discord now.
There isn't. There isn't.
The Attorney General's office is saying that we're not aware.
There isn't.
At least according to what the Ministry of Information told us.
There is only one AG's department.
You dismiss the difference.
There is no difference.
Okay.
There is only one AG's department, and the law student will agree with me. There is only one AG's department. Now, the AG's department. I have done cases where you've done investigation and you send a duplicate docket to the AG's department, and they send the docket back to you with queries and with directives. Look, this one, you have not established this. Have you spoken with this person? Have you spoken with this other person? What is this that why didn't you do this? And with queries and directives. So that in this present instance, the fact that the police even went and arrested people, it tells you that initially they have an intel, or at least they have a basis for the arrest. They couldn't have just gone on the street and arrested Malik because he's around at
even if I was in Kumasi.
Interesting. And that's the point I'm making. That because he's around Asafo interchange on a day, and then because otherwise that's what the police want to tell us, and that's what the AG wants to tell us, that she believed, or the principal state attorney wants to tell us that she believes that that's what happened. But no, that's not what happened. I strongly believe that the police acted on intel and on very good information.
So don't think that these people are innocent. That's what you're saying.
No. It is not my job. It is my job as an investigator to investigate and link you to a crime.
Okay.
That is if there is the evidence to link you to the crime. But I'm saying that to the extent that the AG did not return the docket to them with directive and instructions that, look, go and do further and better investigations and bring out further and better particulars so that we can establish. But then straightforward says that, look, we are entering an only prosecution. That's why I have a problem with.
So if I understand you, first and foremost, you fought police for not doing a thorough job.
Absolutely.
You also fought the advisor in this particular case, the state attorney that gave the advice in the region, for failing to specifically ask them to go and do a better job.
Yeah, because I'm telling you that I have had the experience. I have done murder cases. I've done investigation and sent a duplicate docket to the AG's department for advice. The docket will come back after some time with instructions on what you should do. Where the docket is clear, there is no question, they give an outright advice. Look, in this case, there is no, based on the evidence of this, based on the evidence of that, based on the evidence of this, you cannot link so and so. In that case, but then in this instance, there is no such thing. You have only two people who were spoken to as people who were present on the scene, and a third person who only gave statement to the extent that he is the investigator. So it's, from everything that the principal state attorney told us, there are only 3 witness statements on the docket. 3 for a matter that happened in the presence of a number of people. Minimum 50 people.
But these, we are told, are mostly Delta Force supporters of the people who are already standing trial. So these are people who are getting to cooperate with you at any point in time.
I am saying that there is the likelihood that that is the only case in court on that day is almost 0.
Okay, all right.
Okay, the likelihood of that case being the only case in court that day is almost 0. And if that is the case and there are other cases, then there would be other people in court that day. If the police had gone beyond the 2 police people.
Forgive me, but this point you've made before.
Yeah, so but I'm saying that if they had gone beyond those 2, and still the AG says that, look, based on the, then you would have said that, well, at least the police have done their part and maybe the evidence is not. But this is clearly not the case. And that is where I'm pained that the AG did not return the docket outright instead of going straight out.
When I come back to you, I would also want to hear from you whether you sense this is politically motivated, or it's just one of the inefficiencies we find in our judicial system that springs up people who are not qualified to do the job the way they ought to be done, or probably influenced to do it badly. Malik, it was to some surprising that broad daylight activity that was captured on camera, part of it, and now we have been told that even what was recorded can or may not be so effective and useful in court. But to many, the only thing that guarantees government's continuous belief in the rule of law is the successful prosecution of these people. Was it expected?
Not necessarily those people, but the people who were involved. Not necessarily the 8, but the people who were involved.
And I think I'd like to start from the point Kobe just made about specificity. Normally in criminal trials, and he is a police officer, he would tell us that the standard of proof is beyond reasonable doubt. Vis-a-vis several cases where the standard of proof is on the balance of probabilities. And the distinguishing feature between the 2 of them is one is more difficult to prove than the other one. In a civil case, if Senior Kobe sells me his phone and there's a disagreement over it, and then we go to court, Kobe will tell his story, I will tell my story. They will put our stories on a scale and see whose story is weightier. If the scale goes up this way, it means that his case is weightier, mine is lighter. So the judgment will be given in his favor. That's on the balance of probabilities. But in criminal cases, as this one is, when the state accuses a person of committing a crime, the state has a burden to prove that that particular person committed that crime, and that proof must be beyond reasonable doubt. To be beyond reasonable doubt means that the evidence on the basis of which the person, the police officer or whatever state agency is claiming that Mr. A committed a crime, if you were to present that evidence before any man on the street, that man will be left with no doubt other than that that person has committed the crime, right? Yeah. That's what the standard is.
A crime has been committed, and this is the man.
This is the person who has committed the crime.
It's a higher standard in this
case. It's a higher standard, and you have to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. I guess that's where the difficulty is. Now, the problem with this case is the evidence as gathered by the police, in the view of the senior state attorney, cannot be used to convict these guys. In fact, you can't even rely on it to establish that the persons that you have brought before the court committed the crimes that you are accusing them of committing. Because some say, take the video and show it. And we have been told by lawyers of these 8 that if you look at the video which is being circulated, none of these 8 is found on the video. So that
even if they were found in the video, that video does not reflect what took place in the courtroom.
Absolutely. So the video itself is not prima facie evidence that the 8 of them committed an offense. Under those circumstances, the AG's representative, and he was talking about the AG, of course the AG is one, except that, and you and I had this discussion on radio, the person who proffered that legal opinion on the basis of which the guys were set free was not mandated by any law to seek audience or seek guidance from the Attorney General. She was acting within her right and within her authority. And this happens on a daily basis. And let me make this point, Raymond. Every day in our courts, people get set free because there's no sufficient evidence to convict them. And Senior Kobe knows this.
But this is a special case.
When some 27 people, this is even a more serious one. When some 27 people were rounded up and accused of being the persons behind the murder of Diana, what happened?
They were eventually set free.
I was one of the people covering that case. The state was unable to adduce sufficient evidence to meet that standard, that high bar of beyond reasonable doubt that these persons were the persons who committed that heinous crime. The state was unable to prove that, and so they were let go. The point I am making by citing this example is to emphasize the point that every day in our courts, people escape because the state has been unable to produce evidence to nail them. I share Kobe's opinion when he talks about maybe political influences, which is a problem which has bedeviled our justice system for a very, very long time. That every time crimes are committed and the persons suspected to have been behind the crimes are or have political leanings, the prosecution of those crimes have become a problem. And this has happened under every government. In fact, there have been times when crimes are committed in the name of politics and the police don't even dare to arrest the people. And I remember an example in which a district police commander for Yendi said that persons who were involved in violence at Chirponi, they could not be picked up because these are people who were politically linked. And if you were to talk to any police officer, they will tell you about heavy punishment that comes with insisting that they want to do their job. And I am not suggesting that in this particular case, people were pressured not to do the right thing. I am just sad that a matter which caused such revulsion amongst all of us, the police was unable to adduce such watertight evidence as to leave any AG or whoever was being the prosecuting authority with no option other than to prosecute.
Okay, but could the police have done positive, government probably have done positive influence? You know this matter is of massive importance to you. You know how the previous government was laid for its arrangement and engagement with the judiciary. You know how because of the 1982 killing, the judiciary and its relationship with governments are actually seriously monitored. Mindful of these antecedents, won't you rather be interested in the police doing the right job from the beginning rather than coming back later on to say that we'll review the process?
I think the government is entitled to believe that the police know what they are doing and they will do their job. I get the point, and I made the same point on radio, that the senior state attorney who proffered the legal opinion, knowing very full well that this is a highly political issue, better judgment may have required that she consulted the Attorney General, i.e. Mrs. Gloria Kufu. But she was not under any obligation to do that.
So.
I think it is stretching it if one suggests that the government ought to have been actively involved in the process of prosecution. Because in reality, that's not the job of the government. Because there is a state institution, i.e. the police, who are trained, who know their job, they have the skill. It is their responsibility to conduct investigations and to produce evidence on the basis of which to prosecute a case. I think that the government was entitled to believe that the police would do their job. If the police failed to do their job, remember also that it was the police failing that got us where we are in the first place.
Certainly.
And that is not in doubt. That on a matter such as that, and Elias Kobe was saying that he doubts that that was the only case in court. The fact is that that was not the only case in court. In fact, in the police's defense, as why the lapses that resulted in what happened, they said they went to court with about 20 men, expecting that the case would be called at a particular time.
Okay.
But the judge decided to deal with other cases first. So the men left. Then the case was called at a time that the police people had left the court. That was why the disturbances happened, and there was no police to effect any arrest or to stop it from happening.
That's put up about that.
Okay, no, well, you don't believe that?
But
that's the reason they have given for it.
That's the reason they gave.
Of course. And this reason was not given at the lower ranks, actually
it was
given at the highest level.
I'm actually evaluating that reason.
Okay.
I'm not saying they didn't give that reason, but I'm evaluating it. Look at it. I'm taking a high-profile case to court.
Sorry, forgive me, but do you have contrary evidence?
I'm coming. I'm showing.
No, you are saying that it doesn't. Are you saying it doesn't make sense, or it could have been true?
No, I'm saying that it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Listen, I'm taking a high-profile case to court. My intelligence assessment is that this is a case where I need about 20 men as security backup. It doesn't matter how long it takes the court to call the case. My men must be on standby.
There.
Okay. All right.
My men must be on standby. I mean, it's as if you are telling me that I expect that somebody is going to slap Raymond Aqua at 9, and so I've given him security. By 9:15, the slap hasn't happened, so I'll pull out the security. And then by 9:30, he's slapped. Come on, please.
The police is sometimes spread thin, and
I don't disagree, but I'm saying that the fact that you even decided that this is a case that requires that you beef up security means that the security must be beefed up till the people leave the court on that day.
All right, but let me ask you a question.
So that's a police failing that all of us admit.
Okay.
That
I'm doing this.
So in acting beyond that, the police was expected to remedy their
police, but
earlier what they call it.
And I share your view that all of us have great friends within the police. All of us believe that if the police are determined to do their work, and yesterday Kofi Bento said that when Kofi Ninja or somebody was buried under a foundation, a house was built on, the police found him.
And arrested people and successfully prosecuted people.
If the police were desirous of doing their job, it would have been done. So that failings having brought us where we are, I am not inclined to believe that there were no failings in the investigations. I am actually inclined to believe that what the senior state attorney did was proper and was due process and was giving her training as a lawyer. When you look at the evidence, you can tell ab initio whether this evidence you can take it to court or not. And she came to the conclusion. People are raising questions as whether, well, the Attorney General usually doesn't provide his opinion so quickly, but Are we happy when the Attorney General doesn't profile his opinion so quickly?
We are not.
So, absolutely. So, if the Attorney General profiles an opinion, we cannot fault it on the basis that usually opinions are not profiled quickly.
Okay, but I want us to look at the political commentary on this particular
My only problem with that was that rather than entering another prosecutor, I was expecting that she would have returned the docket and asked for
okay, so it's been proven that there was no knowledge prosecutor entered. What we have now is that it was just a withdrawal, and that particular withdrawal does not constitute a knowledge prosecutor.
What is the effect of
that? The guys have just been discharged; they are not acquitted, and that
yes,
if the police go and gather some more evidence, these guys or others can be arrested and prosecuted for this crime, because this is a crime which I believe touched the nerve of everyone.
Certainly.
That the audacity to go to a court of law and engage in the kinds of actions that they engage in is one that no one should tolerate in this country, and that all of us are outraged, and rightly so, by the conduct, and that all of us hope that the state will do its work so that in the future, even the persons who will be prosecuted and punished, they themselves will know that justice has been done, that they have a stake in this state, and that this state cannot have a circumstance where any person can go to a court and engage in that conduct.
You want to bet?
Okay, hold on. What's the bet supposed to be about? I'm not getting you, Kobe.
He wants to bet that nothing will happen.
Nobody will get prosecuted on this matter.
You've had the assurance, rather, from the Information Ministry that they are still reviewing this particular case.
I am telling you that nobody is going to get prosecuted.
And in fairness, this is not based on any information you know that suggests
it's based on everything that has happened so far. Look at it from this place.
So it's an assumption that something may not happen.
At the time that the incident happened, soon after, the police arrested 8. They were not able to link those 8 to the crime. Now, when they move to the next step and arrest another 3 or 4 or even 1, how are they going to link that 1 to the crime? When they were not able to link him to the crime in the first instance?
But is it only fair that you proposed, and I've heard others suggest same, that they should speak to other people? If these people come up with names, wouldn't they be reliable people? Because if you heard the last line in the statement of the attorney, it said that there's no better of ensuring prosecution than witnesses coming out say, I know this guy did it.
That is where my problem is with the AG not returning the docket.
Okay.
But
that's being remedied now.
But Kobe, the AG not returning the
did not prevent the police from
pursuing. Yeah. It's not fatal to the extent that it does not tie the hands of the police in doing their job. If you go and bring me 8 people and say they have committed a crime and you haven't produced any evidence, and I say let the people go, how does that tie your hand in finding who committed the crime?
Okay, now so let me ask this particular question.
You need to understand something. The police service is under the Ministry of Interior. The Minister of Interior is responsible to the President, right?
Your point being?
My point being that when there is political pressure, whether overt or covert, whether the police feel the pressure even when nobody is exerting it, you know that sometimes you can feel like you are under pressure when maybe nobody...
You assume there's pressure and you feel it.
I'm not assuming, I'm only analyzing.
Okay.
You understand?
I get your point.
Yeah. When all these are there, and as a result of which we have in the first instance see this hazard investigation. I was going to use the word, but I won't use it. You have seen this no investigation at all.
Substandard investigation.
We have seen what represents no investigation at all. I mean, taking a statement from 2, that's what we call armchair investigation. Call witness 1, 2, and take statement for them, and then that. Without even there is nothing being on the docket that shows that there has been a move to the scene of crime. They have been to talk to people at the scene of crime on the D-Day. You understand? So, what is the guarantee that the next time they are going to do that when they couldn't do it in the first instance? Unless somebody is going to tell me that the investigation is going to be taken over by a different person.
Do you agree with Martinami when he says that the minority in Parliament and those of you calling for the issue to be reopened for a much improved investigation, and also those of you that are insulting the state attorney and insisting that she did a poor job too, really do not know your left from right? Do you agree with him?
You know something? I've swallowed it. But let me tell you something. This is Martin Amidu quoting.
You had nicer words or you had better words to share in the first place?
First of all, I have sat here and I have not criticized the principal state attorney for the legal opinion she gave, because that legal opinion, I am not a lawyer.
But you insisted that she did wrong by not returning the docket to the police.
I'm coming. That's a critique. That legal opinion on the face of everything is apt. I'm not a lawyer, but as an investigator, you cannot fault it. But I am saying that we have done investigations where the Attorney General returns the docket with instructions as to what to do to improve the docket. That is where my problem is.
Okay, I get your point. That point you've made successfully.
Now,
but Martin Amidu, just a few months ago, November, December, he wrote an epistle in which he quoted Justice Emisa and ANEA Emisa. And you know what he said? The power, let me quote it directly so that you can get it. The power to, oh, my phone has locked up again. Just give me a second. And certainly, Kobe will have to spend time to unlock his phone. We're still on editor's forum on this particular show today. You have the quote now?
Yeah, the late Mr. Justice A.N.E. Emisa accurately states the position in his criminal procedure in Ghana as follows. The power of the Attorney General to discontinue a case by the entry of a nolle prosequi or withdrawal is political in nature.
Okay.
That is Martin Amidu.
Yes. And I'm struggling to get your point.
Oh, he is saying that we are being political, but he is the one who has made the point that that decision in itself is political in nature. So when people are reading something that is political in nature and people are reading the politics into it, why do you have a problem with it?
Does he say he has a problem with it?
Oh, but isn't that why he's saying that we are not being fair and candid? Is that not what you just said?
Yeah.
You are the one who quoted the authority, because at the time you were talking about Woyome.
Oh, okay.
Because at the time you were talking about Woyome. That one, you were not concerned about being fair or anything.
But there never was a nolle prosequi in respect of Woyome. I don't remember any.
But I'm just giving you the piece.
You remember there was some withdrawal that the Attorney General
It was actually not a withdrawal. It was okay. So the Attorney General filed a case to try and do oral examination of Woyome.
Yeah.
And that was granted. And then the Attorney General went back to court and then sought to discontinue with that process. He was no longer interested in doing the oral examination.
The point I'm making is that
he is double speaking on the matter.
He is the one who told us with an authority that this decision is political in nature. And to the extent that you say that it's political in nature and people are reading politics into it, why are you now coming to say that they are being political?
Oh, okay. So I get your point. But he also made the point that really there is nothing wrong with a chief state attorney proffering such an advice.
I have made a position here clear
that you also support that particular point.
I've said that on the face of everything, based on the facts as she narrated them from the docket, right? And the investigations that as she narrated them in her advice and this explanation to the court, there is nothing that anybody can say. First of all, she's within her authority. She's the head, or I don't know, she's the head at the region. And she is within her authority to prefer that opinion.
Okay, I get your point.
And so she's done it. And the facts as she narrated them and the conclusions that she came to, you cannot fault it. But I am saying that is not what usually happens. What usually happens is that the docket is returned to you with
that point you've made again and again.
That is why. I'm coming.
Let me get Malik's point on this one, because
I need to establish that
there is no evidence. There's no evidence that didn't happen. There's no evidence that she did not speak to the police.
But there's no evidence that they also happened.
No, but there is evidence that didn't happen. Okay, the evidence is in the fact that the AG has gone to withdraw the case against the people and they have been discharged.
No.
You don't understand?
No.
But being discharged has nothing to do with continuation of the investigation.
No, you don't understand.
That's why there was no acquittal.
They could also have just been granted bail while the investigation continues.
But they were already on bail.
Yes, that's the point. So what's the point in withdrawing?
Your critique is that the fact that she did not return the docket and that's your allegation, that she didn't return the docket, that is an issue. My point is, there is no evidence that that didn't happen.
I'm saying that the evidence is in the fact that the case was withdrawn from court.
She may have spoken to them.
You see,
and asked them to go and gather more evidence, and they said this is all we can come up with in respect of this case.
Gentlemen, I get your point, but I want to conclude on this particular matter. Yes, but I need you not to repeat the point you made earlier on. Yeah.
Malik, you know something? We take cases to court not necessarily because it's going to start trial. You understand?
Yeah, but this case is already in court, yeah.
Yeah, it is not necessarily because the trial is going to start. For instance, when you commit somebody for murder and the person is going to court, it's not necessarily because the trial is going to start on that day or the next day. But the case, even there are instances that you commit people for trial when indeed you take case to court when indeed you have not finished investigations. And you ask for time to continue the investigation. And that is where
there's everything wrong with that.
No, if the person is in custody, there is everything wrong with that, because then you are
if the person is out of court, there's everything wrong with it, because we have done it over time and we think it is acceptable, but there is everything wrong with it.
The point I'm making is that we do take cases to court,
but it is wrong.
Well, I don't.
You can't take somebody to court and then now before you go and look for evidence to prosecute the person.
I'm not going to.
Okay, but you see, there's a lot of legal writings that says that that's wrong.
It is not correct process.
If I'm looking,
it is not correct process to take somebody to court before you then go and look for evidence with which to charge the person.
Of course, it offends the rights of this particular person.
I mean,
and you know
it is
that.
not. That's
I'm saying that happens.
Okay, it happens. We know.
Proper or improper.
Okay, so you not do value judgment on that. Let me hear your point.
The point I'm making is that, for me, to the extent that the charges were withdrawn, is an indication that there is not going to be further action on the matter.
Okay, to you. Well, let me now finally ask you a question on this that's going to put the conversation beyond. As media practitioners, let's look at the reportage on this particular story. First, it was reported that they've been let go. Second, reactions came from all over the place, the minority. Then there were later on people writing to support or deny that. Do you think, for example, that even in media practice, the right reportage was given to this particular story, and the reportage was clear enough that all people understood properly what was happening, and the explanations were given in a way that made a lot of sense? Kobe first.
Well, to some extent, I would say yes, largely so. And to most people in the media, bottom line, they walked away. So the fine legal understanding of knowledge prosecutor withdrawal or all those things do not. What is the bottom line? The people walked away. There is not going to be any trial.
Okay.
So to that extent, you see people saying they have been freed. They have been free. They have regained their freedom, and that is as far as the. And so to that extent, I won't blame the media when they do the bottom line analysis and say, what is the bottom line?
Would it be mischievous media practice for anybody connect the executive president, the government of the day, to this particular incident and say that these are party members of the ruling party and that they'll do everything to make sure they let go? That's why the investigation and subsequently what happened in court.
It won't be mischievous at all. In fact, there are basis for it. When you have the...
You've done so, I mean, clearly.
So there is basis for that thing. And especially when political authority appeared not to have been concerned about this matter. Because I'm telling you, if political authority had shown interest in making sure that the police does a thorough job, the thorough job would have been done in the first instance.
And such interest wouldn't be constituted as undue interference in the work of a state institution.
Why is it that the police are under the supervision of the Minister of Interior?
Okay, I get your point, but let me get Malik's opinion on this particular point. Okay, reportage generally, and the connections that can be drawn to it.
Okay, you know that when we do, there are various strands of media houses. There are political media houses and the other media houses that want to stay in the middle and do their job. The political reportage, you can't take it away from them. They are entitled to it. The difficulty is that usually when they do the reporting, depending on who is in power, if it is their person who is in power, and you say, oh, the president is involved, the president is, if the president was determined, he would have made the police do their way, they will tell you that the president is not a police. If their person is not in power, they say, oh, it is the president who didn't get it done.
That's happening now. Really? That's not what's happening now?
So that's how it works. When
you remember the Munche 3 case, right? People were saying that, why are you bringing the president into this?
The president
he has nothing to do with it. He's not a policeman. Yeah. He has, in fact, the people, and I raised concerns about how the security on the grounds was, even when they were being prosecuted. They said, no. The state security is a very independent institution. Let them do their work.
What was the state of the security at the time?
When
I'm talking about the day that some journalists were almost attacked by supporters, and the security men watched it and only asked the journalists to flee for their lives if they could do so.
So Raymond, you have to always look at it from that point of view, that who is the person reporting the story, and what is the philosophy of the media house, because there are media houses which are politically aligned and those which are non-aligned. So for those which are politically aligned, you have to expect that every story that comes, there will be a slant, and they are entitled to it. So I don't know, I think that all publications, a lot of it will always depend on the political philosophy of the media house involved.
Did that help matters?
Not aligned,
did that in any way help matters? Did that?
But I mean, in a democratic dispensation, you can't take it away from us that the Constitution itself allows people to be able to freely express their opinions. They express the editorial.
Finally, and on this particular point, there was an attempt at equalization. Okay, akin to the Munche 3 incident. Some drew the lines and said, but how did the NDC handle this particular issue? The NDC, whose minority is actually crying big time about how rule of law is being bastardized, how the judiciary is not being protected the way it ought to be protected. Have you checked your history? That was a question that was being asked. Is that a legitimate one, or is another wonderful equalization opportunity?
I heard Rasford Jampu, who is a political science lecturer, say that the minority do not have the moral authority to be complaining. I don't know whether they don't have the moral authority. They have a stake in this country. If things go wrong, the fact that yesterday they didn't complain when things went wrong, and in fact the fact that they may have justified yesterday's wrong, does not take away their right to complain if things go wrong today. So to that extent, they are entitled to complain.
Without admitting that they made similar mistakes in times past?
There's no such obligation on them.
But is the morality part that we're talking about, that you speak with authority on a matter when you can
fault them for it.
In the debt
you can fault them for it. That in the past, if this happened whilst they were in government, they would have justified it. And I have no doubt in my mind that they would have justified it, because they justified Munche 3.
Okay.
So, but the fact that they justified Munche 3 and a larger majority or a section of the public were outraged by it does not stop them or does not take away from them their right to be
have a change of heart and speak on this matter.
To be concerned if things go in a manner that they feel is inconsistent with our democratic process. So I don't think that the complaints are justified at all. Okay,
Kobe, quickly on this particular point.
For me, it's very laughable. Very, very laughable.
Interesting.
Good. Munche 3, they verbally assaulted the court.
The highest court.
Court is court.
They are superior and inferior courts.
It's court.
Okay.
Okay, the judiciary.
Yeah, okay.
Let me put it that way. They verbally assaulted the judiciary. The judiciary, nobody in NDC, how do you call it, made any excuses for them. Indeed, what happened was that there was pleas for clemency. Yes, the boys did wrong. Yes, what they did was not right. But please treat them with clemency. That was what happened. They were tried, convicted, and sentenced and imprisoned. The president, based on pleas from all of us, did what? Remitted the sentence. They were sentenced first to fine and also 4 months custodial sentence, that is in prison. The sentence, the fine remained because they paid, and then the custodial sentence was what the remission was about. So after 1 month in prison, the president said, okay, yes, you have been punished enough, so we give you remission of sentence. So as we sit here right now, the Muntie 3 remain convicts. They are not pardoned.
Yeah.
Okay, copy.
I'm coming. Let me just a small question. Let me just finish.
No, he's coming to a point where he will tell me that.
Let me finish.
Yeah, of course, because the facts known to the public. So
let me finish.
Drill down. Now, that's what he intends to say.
Now we have Delta 8, who physically assaulted the judiciary.
Okay, there's no evidence to that. You said Delta 8. You are making you are referring to specific
the 8 people were put before court.
There's no evidence that these 8 attacked the court.
At least according to all the evidence you have before you.
Let me put it this way. People attacked the court.
Yes.
And freed suspect or accused persons who had come.
And those people have not been arrested.
Malik, let me make the point.
Let me make the point. People, and I'm not talking Delta 8 specifically because they may or may not be involved. People attacked the court, and they were and freed people. That is physical assault on the court, physical assault on the judiciary, physical assault on the authority of the judiciary.
You stress on the physical part.
And yes,
and it's more important than verbal to you.
I can see. The point obviously,
really?
What I am saying is that, goodness, these are people who have not just issued, they have actually actualized the threats. They have actually lived it. They have actually done it. Gone to the court and freed people. And this is what we are seeing, and it is being condemned, and you want to...
so beyond the distinction between physical and verbal assault...
It is not about the physical. I'm talking about even the reactions and all. This boy, the Montier 3, were actually tried and convicted, sentenced and sentenced.
But the executive president boldly remitted the sentence of these people.
But what is the effect of the remission? The effect of the remission is not to say that you have not done wrong.
They be legal.
You don't understand. But they paid their fine. Wait, they paid the fine. And they also spent time in prison.
One more point though before you come in, Malik. One more point though before you come in. Are you aware that the BNI said their conduct was, quote, needless bravado?
Yes.
And it didn't rise up to a credible threat against the judiciary. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of that.
Are you also aware that left to the system alone, but for the judges themselves hauling them before them, there wouldn't have been any prosecution of these people?
At the end of the day, there has been a prosecution. They were convicted.
The court-induced prosecution we're talking about.
I'm saying there has been a prosecution and they were convicted. And the conviction, as we speak, stands.
Kobe, are you concerned that the police did not arrest
Let me respond to his question. You understand? Now, this is the situation we are in right now. This is something that has happened in the full glare of the court. Everything that happened. And we are being told that we cannot find anybody to charge with that crime. Okay. The system.
This is about the police again.
This is about the system.
Like, were you worried that the police did not arrest the Montier 3?
Yeah.
No, but the point is this. The police, there was an investigation.
So,
no, wait.
Okay, so there was also an investigation by the BNI, which ended up with the needless bravado thing. Are you aware?
I'm coming to
How different is it from not finding evidence to charge the people?
You don't understand. I'm coming to this. When the police said that it's needless bravado, and then the president and the court convicted them, if the president were Akufo-Addo, I'm sure he would have said that based on the needless bravado conclusion of the police, we grant them pardon.
I don't know about that.
No, but from what is happening right now, that is what it shows.
But the president has not spoken on this matter. The Attorney General's Department says he's reviewing the case.
I don't get the point he's making.
You don't get it.
He's
oh, okay. I'm saying that the investigation was conducted. The BNI said, "Oh, it's needless bravado. They don't have the capacity.
Nothing.
They don't have the capacity to carry out the threat." You understand? Now,
did you agree with that assessment?
I didn't do that investigation.
No, but did you agree with the assessment of the security
agency? No, knowing the people involved, yes, I agree with it totally.
So you agreed with the assessment?
So
the court was wrong. So the court was wrong in trying them.
No. Don't mix the things. Don't mix the.
They say you agree with the assessment, and I need you to round up for me
but
because I need to point to that.
Don't mix the point. Agreeing with the assessment in itself does not mean that the law has not been broken. That the contempt.
I get your distinction.
Contempt has not been made against the court.
Okay.
Remember that. That is very, very clear.
Okay.
So
I get you.
The fact that I agree with the assessment does not mean that act by itself does not constitute a contempt of court.
The fact that there's no credible threat does not mean that it doesn't amount to contempt
of court.
Continue.
So please, let's get that in clear. And so this is what has happened. Now, in this instance, we are being told that we cannot even find the people. Something that has happened in broad daylight.
Okay, I get your point. But Malik, I need you to also give your points at this particular point in time.
If these guys were arrested, if these guys were arrested, say, next week, and they are sentenced, and the president remits them.
Malik, I like your car. I have some motorbike. Let's bet.
No, but I mean, I think that was like, but you asked my question. Yes, I'm okay with him asking you the question, but don't bring in your motorbike analysis.
I'll give him a motorbike for the car.
If these guys were arrested.
If the guys are arrested.
No, but if these guys were arrested and sentenced, and President Nana Akufo-Addo decided that the sentences were too hefty and decided to remit some, would you find it acceptable?
No, I wouldn't have any problem with that. To the extent that the state makes the point that this is a wrong act and we have punished you. Look, remission of sentence does not mean that you have been pardoned. It means that the sentence stands. Not the sentence, the conviction stands. You understand? And so to that extent, your punishment stands on record.
Okay, I get you. So you're ex-convict.
So you have not been let off so that you say that, yeah, it's my party that is in power.
Yes,
I can do anything that I like.
All of the people who were all there, who were convicted, still remain ex-convicts in this particular matter. That's not in doubt. They've not spent a day in jail, but they are still ex-convicts in this matter.
They were not sentenced to jail.
I get your point.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making.
Okay, so now, Malik, if you have something else to say to this particular
point. So if anybody makes that analysis,
give Malik 10 seconds and let's move on beyond this point.
I just think that whoever is in charge must deal with this thing. Whatever the political authorities are, if they don't deal with this, they cancel out Muntier 3 as a political issue.
Oh, okay.
Muntier 3 has never been a political issue.
There's a political ramification to that.
But
I mean, I've heard resource and I've heard some research that even indicates that the NDC, part of his electoral defeat was the perception among the people on the handling of this Muntier 3.
No matter how much justification we put on this, Muntier 3 was a blot on the presidency of President John Mahama. No matter how you dress it, no matter how you garnish it, okay, great. In my opinion, it was a blot, and I'm sure that I'm sure that there's sufficient evidence to back this, that it was a blot on the presidency of the president at the time.
Then this one
if the current political authorities do not deal with this, they will cancel out Muntier 3 as a political issue. I suspect that Kobe mischievously is happy that this is happening, so that it cancels out Muntier 3 as a political.
Are you excited by it?
Let me make this point.
Forgive me, but this point can be made.
No, let me make.
But I need you to do it 30 seconds. I need to move on.
People are rightly or wrongly unhappy with the way the Muntier 3, not the way, the fact that the Muntier 3 were, how do you call it, their sentence was remitted. People are unhappy about that. I agree. No distinction about that. But nobody disagrees with the process, because the process is followed due process. Now, I am saying that in this particular instance that we are having, the people we are being told that they cannot even identify the people. And the police are going random arresting Malik Dabu at
and you are holding the political authority responsible for the failings.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, many thanks to you, gentlemen, for this particular commentary. I think we have to move on this point. Now, there's other tension brewing elsewhere, and we were going to talk about that particular tension, which is to do with workers, various state institutions who are being laid off. The most recent one is at the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority. The biggest claim, we can't pay for them. They were recruited between November and December. When we come back, we will seek to unravel and put in perspective for you on Editors Forum here.